So Games Interactive Media Mobile, we're still a fairly new program at Boise State. We're just finishing our 5th year. We're going into our 6th year next fall. We're one of the largest of the undergraduate majors in the top 20, certainly. We are basically I would say it's a transdisciplinary degree. We work with, so really what our degree does is we combine object-oriented programming, visual design, and narrative and usability kind of all in one curriculum. We run in roughly about 300 majors, and we work, or I should say our labs are downstairs in the first floor of the library. We have an Alienware lab and we have an Apple lab. We work pretty closely with Apple, for example, on a number of things. And I'll kind of go through a few other things kind of as we move forward. I'll play this for us. It's kind of weird to see myself on the screen. There you go.
I don't even remember where I first heard about it, but as soon as I realized what it was about, I knew I had to be in it. We combine a series of skills from what were traditionally different areas.
It's a newly developing field. There's a million places I could go with it, so I don't have to choose one thing.
These are skills you can take into any field. They're applicable to business, the healthcare industry, social sciences.
This is all of those cool tech things from all of the sci-fis. This is what we're trying to build to make the world a better place. Do you want to be part of that?
Names of these schools, because I don't know logos. I am sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have someone on? I'm hearing somebody. Do you hear that too?
Sorry, that was me.
Oh, okay, good enough. All right, so Josh, let me kind of talk a little bit kind of what you just saw. So, so let me say a few things about GIMM also, just kind of in general. Really, I think one of the things that makes us very different is we're a strong community. So I was talking about, you know, those 2 labs that we were in. We really do, we know each other very well. We work there. When you come into GIMM, you will form pretty strong bonds with your peers, and you will spend a lot of time inside of our labs. One of the things that I love about GIMM, you know, so we basically run our classes 9 to 9, Monday through Thursday, and then Fridays and Saturdays are open lab day, especially Friday is a big open lab day for us. And when you come in, we have peer mentors and people there, but basically upperclassmen who can answer questions, help you with various projects. You'll meet with your peers, you kind of talk things over. But one of the things I love about GIMM too is that, especially on Fridays, you know, the library itself is open till about midnight on a normal night, I should say. And then of course there are some 24-hour days too. One of the things I think proves how strong a community GIMM is people stay on for I've forgotten things and on a Friday night and driven back to the office basically to get them. And I'm walking in there 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night on Friday, and there's students sitting around playing games, having fun, talking with each other, still in that lab. And so to me, that kind of says how strong the community really is. Now, in terms of coming back to when you're looking at this list here, this is really the top 10 IT jobs. This is US Bureau of Labor Statistics. When you look at that big long list, we really kind of hit 3 of those areas: mobile app developer, video game designer, and web developer. Now, a lot of times I get questions are like, what's the difference between you and computer science? Usually how I try to answer those questions is computer science is a great degree. It's another great degree here on this campus. Really, we do program basically to the same level. The difference is kind of just an emphasis. So I would say computer science focuses a lot more on kind of back-end processes like data structures and things like that. What GIMM does is we focus a lot on front end. So for us, like we're making things like games, virtual and augmented reality experiences, mobile applications, things like that. And that really is kind of the biggest difference. And one of the other things I want to say about this list that you're seeing, you know, this is an up-to-date list, but I think we're going to see something change here fairly soon. I think we're going to see a different kind of IT profession appear on this top 10 list, and what it's going to be called, I think, is mixed reality developer. And what that means is someone who works with both augmented and virtual reality, because this is now the most, virtual and augmented reality are the #1 in-demand fields for software development at this moment, and that's out of Box and others for reporting that. Now, what's going on? I know this is probably going to be harder for you to see, but what you're looking at here, this is a pie chart, and it comes from Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs is that big investment firm, basically research firm. They're out of Wall Street. And their job basically is to understand what's going on, how are things going to be changing in terms of our industries. And so one of the things that they did a couple of years ago, they basically looked at the augmented and virtual reality markets, and they made a very good prediction for us. They said that by 2025, 5 years from now, that the augmented and virtual reality market will be an $80 billion a year market. And actually, their prediction is the most conservative. There are others who are saying it'll be much higher than that. If that happens, that's wonderful. One of the reasons I like to show this particular chart, though, too, is they kind of break it down by what the kind of projects and jobs that people will have in that AR, VR space. So this part of the chart right here, this roughly about a third of the circle, these are games for entertainment. And the other 2/3 of that circle are really industry simulations. So basically creating augmented and virtual reality experiences for like healthcare, education, so on and so forth. And I always like to show this because this is really GIMM's curriculum completely, right? I get a lot of people that come and they're like, gosh, we're gonna make games. And yes, we are gonna make games. But games are about a third of GIMM's curriculum. The other 2/3 are basically, again, making mobile applications or making experiences that are driven towards kind of industry needs. So what do we make? We make serious games. So you know, coming here, would you understand how to make a AAA game for entertainment? Yes, but that's not what we make in our class projects. The kind of things that we do are serious games, which really have to do with games that have an education or therapeutic kind of a value. We make mobile applications. When we make mobile applications, however, it's not just a simple mobile app. What we're usually trying to do is make a mobile app that, again, has an education, a therapeutic, or community benefit to it. In fact, one of GIMM's goals is to double or triple the amount of occupational speech and physical therapy which is delivered in our schools. And I'll show you kind of how that's working in some of the projects that we've done. We also work with Internet of Things, which makes us pretty unique in the country. There's not that many programs doing it. What Internet of Things are is it's really kind of what's happening is our phones are starting to kind of fracture out into all these different devices. And so you got smartwatches and Fitbits, and you got smart appliances and Bluetooth beacons and things like that. We work with these things as well. This is the Internet of Things in combination with the augmented reality is probably the new web. That's certainly kind of how we see things sort of developing. And then obviously we do virtual and augmented reality, and I'll talk more about them here in a second. We maintain pretty deep hardware libraries inside of GIMM. That's one of the big advantages. So when you come here, you have an opportunity to work on high-level equipment and get experience with that and be able to bring that into your projects. And then let me just give you some ideas of kind of like, when I'm talking about virtual reality and serious games, what does that look like? And so one of the things that for us is we were very, very early into the virtual reality research game. And so basically what you're seeing here, this is a project which began in January of 2014. We received a grant for that project. What happened is we had our nursing department come over to us. It said to us, hey, we have a problem. We have a nationally accredited nursing simulation lab. It's one of the best in the country. We have in that lab 16 medical mannequins. The cheapest of those mannequins is $15,000. The most expensive of the mannequins is $65,000. We have roughly 500 nursing students. The nursing faculty would like to have each of those students practice procedures on those mannequins anywhere from 30 to 50 times before they do it on a human being. But in practical terms, it just can't happen. There's too many students. And this problem isn't just Boise State's problem. It's actually everywhere. It's around the world. And we have dealt with now universities from a number of different countries, and then also a number of the states here and everybody's in the same position. Everybody's struggling to get students, nursing students, enough exposure. So we said, okay, well, we think we can probably do something about that. And we said, well, what's the first project that you'd like us to make? And they said catheter insertion, because that 20% of all secondary infections come from this procedure alone. And if we could do something about this, if we'd help our nursing students get better, we can save lives. And we said, well, sure, then let's take this thing on. And so again, we're talking 2014. So if you look down the picture here, back then, even now, the haptics on an Oculus Rift and a Vive are, well, they're getting better, but they're not perfect yet, right? But back then they did not exist. And so we had the Rift, this is DevKit 2, and the nurses needed to be able to pick up and move things around naturally by doing gestures in their environment. So we said, well, okay, well, that means we're going to have to invent some things. And so if you're looking down in this picture here, you'll see these gloves here. Those are gloves that we made. Those are custom gloves. And what we were looking for is we're trying to pick up the fine gestures that the hand was doing as it was moving in the environment. And then if you'll see, there's black bands around the forearms. Now those we didn't make. Those are called Mios. Basically what they do is they can read the muscle movements in a forearm, and they know, like, if I'm gripping like this, or if my hands spread out, they know that what that feels like in the forearm, and so they can accurately track kind of what's going on there. So we can use the gloves in combination with the Mio to get really accurate tracking on how someone is picking something up. And then you can't see it here, but in front of Sam, we have a Connect camera, which is picking up all kind of his big body movements. And so together, that's this haptics for this system. I'll show you a quick video of it. This is the first field trial we did. And you'll notice the nursing student is working there. Now, you'll notice down here, this is the environment that she's in. Now, of course, she is seeing it not as a binocular. She's seeing it as if I'm in a 3D environment. You'll see that she's picking things up. You can see that up in the corner. She's naturally picking stuff up, and then it's translated directly into this environment as she's working with the simulated 3D models that we made. Now, one of the other things you'll notice with this is there's no body. So again, we were really early into this process. And actually, originally, we did have a body on the person. But we were discovering around the same time as a lot of other VR researchers that actually having that body made it harder for somebody to work in the environment. And so what was interesting is we found that when we took the body out, all of a sudden we could trick the brain into thinking like, those hands are my hands. And we got a person interacting much faster in what they were doing. Now, the way that this worked is it's set up, we were able to put this whole thing into a 10 by 10 office space. So basically, if you had a building where an office is open 24 hours a day, a nursing student could come in, they could type in their name, say, here I am. They'd start playing the game, and we would start tracking, how they were doing, where they had trouble, and we could pass that information back to the faculty member and say, hey, everybody's doing great here, but not great there. Maybe you want to talk about that again in class. This system, I guess, also when we first started, what we found was they learned quite quickly. The first time they played it, most nursing students took about 20-25 minutes, but by their second or third play, they were down dramatically, like 7 or 8 minutes. And so that really made it possible for nursing students to be able to do 30 to 50 procedures in a relatively short period of time and get good at it. This entire system delivered, hardware and software combined, was $8,000. That's half the price of the cheapest medical mannequin. And that's one of the reasons why we won. That, and of course, our solution was the reason that we won the National WOW Award for this particular thing. We then, I don't have a picture of it, but in 2016, we took on a second version of this product. And basically, we moved away from our gloves. We looked to just picking up gestures using a leap motion camera. And we were shooting to do that so that we wouldn't even have to have an office. We'd be able to just basically have computers in a standard computer lab. We were able to deliver that system. We were able to actually deliver it for a complete cost of only $5,000. And with that particular system, we did a second international field trial. So we had people flying from Australia and Japan, from all around the United States, They flew here, they trained here in Boise with my students, and then they went back. And then of course we worked with those people at distance, understanding how it was to bring this into the classroom. To date, we've published about 4 articles on that. The long and the short of it is it works. And that's been a very gratifying thing for us. I'm gonna jump out of here. I think I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna show a couple other things instead. And so I'll show you another of our virtual reality projects. We have a lot of different here. Can you guys see that good? Perfect. So what I'm going to show you is so here in GIMM, we do a lot of projects. We do a lot of projects for the community. In fact, as we look at our curriculum, everything that we do or that we're training for is to how to do things to help others, to solve problems. We work with a local foundation here in town. It's called Old Clute and Maggie Foundation. They have dedicated up to $250,000 to basically take on projects or problems, I should say, in the community that we think have a high-tech solution. And so GIMM employs about 40 students. The start pay for our students is $15 an hour. We work about 30 hours during the summer and about 10 hours a week during the school year. And we do a number of projects. Now here is one of them. This is also a virtual reality project. It's a little different though in that we didn't use 3D models. With this one, we have state-of-the-art 360 video cameras, some of the best probably here in the state. What happened is the city of Boise and the Boise airport came to us and they said, gosh, we have a problem. We have children on the autism spectrum and we would like, we know that if they haven't been to the airport before, it can be a very overwhelming experience. Can you create something for us that that would, let a child experience it, feel comfortable, so that when they traveled, things would go much smoother? And we said, sure. And so what we did is we took our 360 cameras and we worked with the TSA and with the Boise airport, and we recorded this experience, and then we created a virtual reality app for it. And here I'll play this little story which ran on us about a year ago.
Look around.
The students filmed inside the Boise airport with the actual employees to help kids on the spectrum feel more comfortable. And they've spent the past few weeks editing it all together.
You will feel like a small child going through the airport.
The airport can be an overwhelming experience, especially so for children with sensory issues.
For a child on the spectrum, one of the things I think they struggle to understand are sort of the rules of the environment. And so they're overwhelmed by all these things that are coming in, the sights and the sounds.
Students are working on a VR experience that walks a child through the Boise airport.
Here the TSA agent is explaining that unfortunately we can't see exactly what's in the bag, so we need to pull the suitcase aside and go through.
From every angle.
So really we're shooting 6 videos at once, and then we have to take those videos and then stitch them all together.
The Boise airport already has an event called Wings for Autism, where children on the spectrum can get a practice run at boarding a plane. But that's just one day. This technology can help kids on all the other days of the year.
This allows other children within the community to use this technology to be able to go through that experience virtually, so the next time they fly, it's more of a familiar environment and it'd be less stressful for them.
GIMM lab students also reach out to medical professionals to see how to make their technology most effective.
There is a growing need for virtual learning and virtual therapy environments in the healthcare industry. I'm a father with a child with Down syndrome, so I definitely see that there's a need for more of these extra programs.
And Boise State is working on it.
So much more than just video games now, but a realm that can really, truly help people.
And what we did with that, we produced it, and then we distributed it last August, and so it's available to anybody. We put it out to some of the public libraries here in the Treasure Valley, so that if someone doesn't have a VR headset, they can come and they can experience it there. But if they do have a VR headset, it's freely available, can be used anywhere to help people kind of get comfortable again going through the airport. And you saw there, you can kind of see it in the background here too, the big ball camera here. That's one of our 360 cameras. That's a particularly expensive one. It can do some pretty interesting things. And again, we give our students the opportunity to work with that and produce something which is essentially of a professional quality. Let me show you one other project. So those are two virtual reality things I was talking about. Now I'm going to talk about augmented reality. And I think I mentioned earlier, there we go. So one of the other things we do, one of our goals is to double or triple the amount of occupational speech and physical therapy that's delivered in our schools. And so we're working with a number of the Boise school districts, and we also end up working with the Atlanta, Georgia school districts, the 13 Atlanta, Georgia school districts. And what we're doing is we're developing a series of tools to kind of help them. Now, this one that I'm going to show you, this story ran about, I guess it was last July. This particular app is not done yet. It's scheduled to be done this June. And so what you're going to see here, we're much further along even than what this is. But this is augmented reality. This is kind of the next web. Basically, augmented reality, different from virtual reality in that when you look around, with virtual reality, you're obviously inside a set of VR goggles. But with augmented reality, you're using your phone now, but soon it's going to be glasses, which basically looks around you and puts things out in your environment. So here's how this particular project is going.
There's a big concern across Idaho, with half of the kids entering Idaho kindergarten unable to identify more than 11 letters in the alphabet. A group of students are helping kids prepare for the classroom with new technology. 6 on Your Side's Jessica Taylor shows us how augmented reality could improve reading and writing in tonight's Making the Grade.
Anthony the Ant is throwing a surprise party for Francine the Fly.
Students will soon be able to turn their real lives into a storybook while learning to write inside of it.
Augmented reality is like bringing something into our world. Virtual reality is bringing us into another world. So what this is doing is it's placing the child inside of their own story. So they get to see this story kind of evolve in front of them and play a part in it.
Students in the GIMM lab are developing an app that teaches children to write.
So we're going to trace the line here.
With specialized art and progress tracking that helps children with developmental delays or on the autism spectrum.
We track all the data. We'd like to be able to present it for teachers and occupational therapists.
The app creates a profile for each student that teachers can monitor. It can even help predict if a child is likely to develop carpal tunnel syndrome for how they hold the pencil.
We can pinpoint those kinds of things so that teachers can, when they start working with their student, they can just sit down and know exactly what they're struggling with.
Awareness of written materials and writing skills are kindergarten Common Core state standards. Across the state, schools are lacking therapists, which is often how students receive handwriting help.
One of the things we want to do is to increase the amount of occupational therapy, speech therapy, and other kinds of therapies that the schools are offering right now. We realize that that's difficult sometimes with budgets.
More and more classrooms have iPads as part of their classroom materials. So this is a more cost-effective effort to increase occupational therapy for handwriting. The program, once completed, will be available across iPads and phones so students can access it at home. Jessica Taylor, 6 on Your Side.
So what we get with that one, by working with the iPad, you saw that smart pencil. What was really good about that is we can know, like, how does the child hold the pencil? Is it properly? Are they pressing down too hard? Those are all kind of things that an occupational therapist or a teacher is really trying to monitor, and that we're able to kind of present to them. And then obviously it's an augmented reality environment, so the child is pointing the iPad around them and they're seeing a game and they're interacting with that game as they learn. And so that's kind of those are two of the things we've done. Again, we've got dozens of these. I'll show one more, and this one I got to call up separately because we always get KTVB likes to run its ads, so we'll just call this one up. Hopefully we won't have a big ad to kind of listen to, but we might. So yeah.
We are running our COVID-19 technology response on Teams.
I can actually share my screen and show the x-rays.
Oops, shoot.
We can do that in a visit like this.
We'll have to wait for the ad, my apologies.
Here's something that may surprise.
Okay, so here's one too. Now this has to do with really Internet of Things. So in this particular app that we're working on, this one uses Bluetooth beacon technology. And what Bluetooth beacons are is they're really just little devices, and they just kind of create usually it's a 30 to 50 foot field. If we have multiple of devices in a room or in an area, we can triangulate the strength of those various signals and know very accurately like where one person is standing or where they're sitting or how often they move around. And there's a lot of things we can do with this. What you're going to see here is we're using it to match to food needs on the campus so that people who are hungry are able to get at food that is basically just on the campus left over from meals that are happening.
A 2016 survey shows that close to half of the students at Boise State describe themselves as food insecure. At the same time, events on campus often have leftover food that goes to waste. And it sounds like those two problems could probably help each other out. Our Joe Paris is in studio to explain how some Boise State students are working to help students in need while preventing waste. Joe?
Gretchen, a team of talented students has already worked hundreds and hundreds of hours over the last 2 years to develop a smartphone app to help with problems of waste and need on their campus.
Pretty much universally, everyone I tell about this idea gets excited.
The root of that excitement is found here on a smartphone. This is Bronco Beam.
So Bronco Beam actually stands for Beacon Environment Approximation Mapping. We're just getting started.
The app was developed by a team of students working in the GIMM lab at Boise State. It lets students on campus know if catered events have extra food when they're over.
Tells you what the food is, where it is, and how long it'll be available.
The app solves two problems on campus. Students who are food insecure now have new options for free meals, and food services now has people to give extra food to instead of just throwing it away.
I think every college student has a dream of doing something that's actually going to be impactful in the real world instead of just kind of like a study. And I got to say, this is a perfect example of that.
Sitting there and my phone buzzes and tells me there's free food in this app, that was super cool just to see that happen and see that it's actually working how we wanted it to.
While the team was talking me through how the app works, an alert came in from Bronco Beam.
There it is. Yeah, lasagna, salad, and rolls.
So we decided to take a walk over to the Student Union building where a fresh meal was waiting. Shortly after the alert went out, students were taking advantage of the food that otherwise would have been thrown away.
It's been great. We've started having events, seeing people come and actually take advantage of it, and we're excited to see it grow.
And that's already happening, and fast.
When we checked yesterday, we had gone from 200 beta testers to about 600 or 700 users in about 2 days.
For the team of Olivia Thomas, Isaac Herrero, and Tyler Chapman, this app has also opened up their eyes to new possibilities.
Also see that what we're making can actually at least make a small dent in that problem, if nothing else.
And the Bronco Beam app is out now.
So we not only can use it, so one of the things that was good about that, right, is that the regulations state that if someone's running if someone has a meal, a catered meal, all that food has to be thrown away within 30 minutes of basically the event being done. And so one of the things that the beacons and the geofencing allowed us to do is, it does no good to send a message across all of campus because you don't know if someone's 100 yards away or 10 miles away. And so we were able to know very accurately, hey, someone is close enough, they can come and take advantage of this. And then we can, using the same technology, we can pinpoint exactly where they need to pick up the food. The app itself, I think now we're at 15 or 1600 users. So it's much higher than even when that story was run this last November. We also use that same technology to do things, it's the same app actually, to do things like help people in tutoring centers. So we can use it so that like if you're in a large class, like a math class or chemistry class, and then you go to have a tutoring session later that week, if you're having trouble with something, you walk into that tutoring session and we can say, hey, so-and-so is sitting over in the corner of the room. They have the same problem you do. Maybe you want to talk with them. Or even better, so-and-so has solved the problem that you're having and they're willing to help. And so that's kind of another way that we're sort of starting to use that. And so again, that's Internet of Things, and that's just kind of the beginning of how that all kind of works. With that, I'm going to stop probably talking. I have lots of things to show you, but Josh, why don't you just if you have questions, let me know, and I'll try to address them. And if there's something else I can show you, I will.
Do you want to share a little bit? May I turn on the mic? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, please do. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I guess my main question is that the career I'm looking right now of video game designer, due to it being very like popular and like well, mainly the leading country being Japan, and I already talked to Tetsuya Ihara about learning Japanese and such, but he also recommended that the abroad program going to Japan would help me in learning more.
Mm-hmm.
So would I be able to go abroad, but also be getting the same like kind of education here?
You can go abroad, but depending on when you go, it might slow down your progress in the program.
Oh, okay.
So like, are you thinking like you're going to go for a semester or for a year, or what were you thinking?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question myself. I kind of want to like check it out first when I'm actually there.
Oh yeah,
See how
I understand. So normally with us, we run on a cohort model. So basically, we're putting you take at least two classes of GIMM per semester. One of which kind of deals with programming, and the other which kind of deals with design. And hi, Aaron. It's nice to see you. I'll give us a second. We just finished a presentation, but I'll be with you in a second too. And then if a person is coming in with like college credits and whatnot, we usually can accelerate them too. So like sometimes I have people that come, they've already been at a university for a year, so we still try to get them through in 3 years. If you do but now if you go overseas, if you were to take off a semester, depending on when you did it, we might be able to make arrangements so that it wouldn't interrupt anything. If you're gone for a year, it's going to delay graduation probably for a while at least, and especially like when you decided to go. In terms of game development, again, we do it's a pretty strong part of the program. For us, I think what we're able to give you is the fact that we have you would get a pretty strong introduction to AR VR too, which is not common in the game programs right now. I mean, in fact, so you have there's an 18-month individual game project that you do. It must have either a VR or an AR component to it, and that has been well received by our employers for our graduates. They like seeing that. Does that help?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. What else can I answer for you, sir? Josh, may I ask, what year are you right now? Are you a junior, senior?
I'm a junior in high school right now.
Perfect. Are you here in the States or are you further away?
I'm from Fruitland, Idaho.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well, do you do any programming right now, or do you do any design right now? Like, do you have access to classes that give you those experiences?
Currently, not right now. I wouldn't be too surprised if there was some sort of.
My apologies. Go ahead. Say that again, Josh.
No, not currently.
Okay, that's okay too. So here in GIMM, we don't expect that someone comes in with any prior experience in either design or programming. So, if you have an opportunity to take a class, whether it's a coding class or a design class, that's great. But we don't necessarily ask for it. Have you done like any kind of amateur modding or something like that on game builds or anything like that?
I've played with some before.
Oh, good. Okay. So like Yeah, no, I said good. That's excellent. So like when you say, so what's you want to be a game designer? That's kind of the big overarching goal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, perfect. Um, do you lean more towards design or do you lean more towards coding? Do you think? What do you think? Hard to say because you probably haven't seen either one that way. Am I right?
Yeah. I haven't seen either one that way. I'd like to try both out before I voice an opinion.
Well, that makes sense to me. So here's what I'm going to suggest. Since you're a junior now, going into your senior year, so next year when we're finally all back, in a regular schedule, what GIMM does is every Friday, like I was talking about earlier, we have our open lab, and if you can arrange to come down and be with us on one of those Fridays, what we'll do is we'll take you through and we'll show you projects and we'll talk to you more about kind of here's what happened here, here's what we did work here. And give you more of a sense of like, well, gosh, what is it like to actually do something like this? We have people that drop in, which is fine too, but the best experience is just let us know you're coming, and we'll have students for you to talk to and faculty for you to talk to, and kind of, just see what it's like to do that stuff.
Okay, yeah, like currently I'm in the I'm currently in the program for physics. Like I'm taking it out of the high school, but it gives me credits towards BSU currently.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, and we would count, yeah, I mean, we obviously those credits all count towards you coming here. And so actually that kind of was what I was saying earlier too. So I have people that come here that have a bunch of credits already, towards their college career. So once we figure out what that looks like, what we usually do is we sit down and sometimes it's like, okay, you're not, you have enough credits. You're not going to have to do 4 years. It's a 3-year degree instead, and we'll just make things work. Now, the first semester in GIMM is always the same, no matter for anybody. So basically, it's when you come into GIMM, you have to take the 2 intro classes, and we really, it's our moment to kind of see like, okay, how do what do you like to work with, and it's your moment to kind of see what we do, and then about halfway through or 2/3 of the way through that semester, we sit down and we start talking like, okay, do you have extra credits? Like some of yours, like so basically you've got extra college credit for physics. We start to figure that in, and then we start to decide, okay, does that mean you're going to fast track and go through in 3 years instead of 4? What else Josh, what else can I answer for you? I mean, if you want, you can ask me general questions about Boise State too. I'm happy to. I may not have all the answers about general questions for Boise State, but I'll do my best, and I'm sure between Veronica and I, we'll know, or anything. What would you like to talk about, sir?
Okay, I guess these are more or less general questions. Like, yeah, I want to get into these like programs and such, but also want to like stay in shape. Is there like a weight room or on campus?
Oh yeah. It's a great one, as a matter of fact. It's got tons of stuff. It's pretty easy. I mean, I think I know a lot of students go over to it. I don't think it's like I was at a campus, not here. This is a prior campus where they also had a nice gym, but it was busy. And I get the sense that everybody can get in and do the things that, do their weights or do whatever whenever they want. And then it's just Idaho too, right? This is a beautiful state. So besides the gym, there's tons of hiking trails. I mean, my goodness, it's just wonderful. It's beautiful around Boise. What else, sir?
I've got nothing else at the moment. Oh wait. So I've known a couple people that have like wanted to go here.
Yeah.
But they weren't able to pay the living situation. Is there like a way to, and I'm afraid that I might get the same problem. Is there a way to like help me get through that, or if
Sure.
anything?
No, that's a good question. So GIMM does have scholarships. We don't have anything for the first year, and that's by design. We start to give our scholarships from sophomore, junior, senior. We also, like I was showing you with those projects before, if things work out, we can hire you onto the dev teams. The dev teams, like I said, they work 10 hours a week during the school year and 30 hours a week during the summer. And the minimum or the start pay for them is $15 an hour. And that honestly, I would say that's probably the majority of how we do our kind of financial help to students, is we give them those projects. We think it's a kind of a better option because it lets them work on something, obviously earn money while they're working on something, but then when they're done, they have a portfolio artifact that they can show to an employer someday and say, yeah, here's what I did, or here's what I know how to do. Most of the GIMM students, we don't generally have problems with people, not having enough money to pay. I think probably because because we do have, well, like I said, we had 40 students employed this year. And then the students that aren't working directly in GIMM usually do have some other part-time work in town. And so I think those things kind of take care of the expenses. Beyond that, it's financial aid. I mean, they can definitely help you. When you talk with them, they'll sit down and they'll go through all the ins and outs of student loans and Pell Grants and other things like that. And so we do our best to make sure that you can afford it.
There's a couple of different things you could do, Josh, and I think it all depends on kind of your academic standing and what you're interested in doing, but there's concurrent enrollment. So you can take classes while you're still in high school, and the state will actually pay for that. So that's one way to also save money, because then you won't have to be here as long. You have to take English and math and a lot of the general courses. So concurrent enrollment might be something I would look into to kind of help you so that the time that you're here is shorter. The financial aid office, there's all sorts of scholarships that you can apply for. GIMM does offer scholarships, but there's a plethora of scholarships. You just have to do the work and apply that they award to students regardless of major and what they're interested in. So that might be another thing that I would look into. And then, like Anthony mentioned, GIMM hires a lot of students and pays them substantially well compared to a lot of the other departments on campus. So those are some of the things I would kind of look into to be able to help. And then financial aid, there are grants and loans. It really just depends on each person's individual financial situation. So I would recommend reaching out to them, and they'll be able to help you with that. And you'd have to fill out FAFSA, and they would be able to, a lot of the scholarships use that as their metric, whether it's, sometimes they award things because of your scholastics, sometimes it's financial need, sometimes, I mean, there's scholarships out there for left-handed people, so there's a wide variety of different things you can kind of look into.
Those are good questions, Josh. Is there anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Hey, thank you. You came, you spent time with us. I hope we gave you a pretty good idea kind of what GIMM is about. Like I said before, sometime over your senior year next year, plan a trip down to Boise on a Friday. Come see us. Let us know you're coming. We'll have tons of things to show you. We'll let you, see our projects and, interact with them, and then let you talk with students and see kind of what it's like. Okay?
Okay, yeah. I'll be sure to do that. Thank you.
All right. Well, then you have a good day.
Thank you for joining us.